The train's hum filled the silence as it sped deeper into the unknown. Mia sat motionless, the crumpled note in her hand, her mind spinning. The new line written on it, "You'll hear her again," felt less like a reassurance and more like a warning. She stared out the window, watching the endless darkness roll by, her own reflection faint and ghostly in the glass. The train slowed suddenly, not to a stop, but enough for Mia to feel the weight of the change. The lights in the carriage flickered, as if reacting to something unseen. She leaned forward in her seat, holding her breath, listening. That's when she heard it. A whisper. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. Her heart raced. She stood and turned slowly, scanning the empty carriage. The whispers grew louder, but the words were indecipherable, a swirling mix of tones that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Her grip on the note tightened as she took cautious steps toward the center of the carriage. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. The whispers paused for a moment, and then... Mia. Her name, clear this time, and in a voice she recognized, her mother's. Tears pricked her eyes as she spun around, searching desperately for the source. "Mom?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "Where are you?" The lights flickered again, and for a brief moment she saw it. A figure at the far end of the carriage. It was faint, like a shadow barely clinging to form, but its outline was unmistakable. It stood motionless, facing her, its presence heavy and overwhelming. "Mom?" Mia's voice wavered. She took a hesitant step forward, but the figure dissolved into the air like smoke. The whispers returned, louder this time, overlapping and chaotic. They weren't just her mother's voice anymore. There were others. Men, women, children, all speaking at once. They echoed through the carriage, their tones ranging from pleading to angry, from desperate to resigned. "Why are you here?" one voice asked. "Turn back," said another. "You can't leave," a third whispered, sharp and cold. Mia's breathing quickened as she clutched her head, trying to block out the cacophony. "Stop!" she screamed. "Just stop!" And then, silence. The train shuddered, and she fell back into her seat. For a moment, all was quiet. The lights steadied, and the carriage seemed normal again. She exhaled shakily, trying to steady her nerves. "Mia?" Her mother's voice again, this time right behind her. She turned sharply, but there was no one there. Instead, she saw a small envelope on the seat across from hers. It hadn't been there before. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. Inside was a folded piece of paper with a single phrase written in the same hurried scrawl as before. "The voices will guide you." Her heart sank as she read the words. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew the whispers weren't done with her. As she stared at the note, the train began to slow again. This time, she didn't look out the window. She didn't want to know where it was taking her next. The lights dimmed, and the whispers returned, softer now, but constant. They seemed to weave around her, pulling her deeper into the train's mysterious journey. Mia closed her eyes, clutching the note tightly. Whatever this was, whatever lay ahead, she wasn't sure she could face it. But she didn't have a choice. The train had decided, and the voices weren't going to let her go.